Greetings, everyone. I hope and trust you're all doing well. I'm Pastor Odein Eubank, Director of the National Christian Education Unit, an arm of the National Youth and Discipleship Department. Today, I want to share with you quickly, as you are we are in our Bible reading month, as we look at the book of Romans. I want to share with you on the righteousness, this theme, the righteousness of God, that you can see in chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And other chapters, but I'll kind of look at it from the perspective of chapter 1. Now, it is difficult to define the righteousness of God by simply looking at the text at face value. However, I think the righteousness of God has more than one specific application, and you can use the word multivalent there. Based on what Dr. Wilson, a New Testament scholar and former lecturer of mine, taught me, one way to look at the righteousness of God is that it is the status of God, meaning God himself is righteous. And this is not just to be seen as a mere moral goodness or mere moral goodness, because then one could ask the question, is God to be held, or is God held by a standard outside of himself that he cannot break? Certainly God is not bound by some unseen rules set by some other force. God's very nature is righteous. God's standards derive from his nature. They come from his nature. He is good. He is holy and righteous because that is who he is. This can be seen as perfect faithfulness to his own name. And as I reflected on this, I look to Psalm 143 verse 11, which says, "For the sake of your name, O Lord, revive me. In your righteousness, bring my soul out of trouble." And as you think about that, it is important to point out that God's name here represents his essence, represents his character. And so God's faithfulness is not to some standard or entity outside of himself. His faithfulness is to himself, to his own name. For he is unchangeable. He will not cease to be righteous, for he will not cease to be himself. Another way to look at the righteousness of God is as a status given to men by God. So God is already righteous, but he has the power to make man righteous too. Here, righteousness is now credited or can be credited to man's account. Man is made righteous as he is justified by faith in Christ Jesus and because of what Jesus did on the cross. This righteousness is not man's righteousness, it is God's righteousness. For man did not earn it or could not earn it. Man's righteousness is worthless. It's like filthy rags, as Isaiah said. And it cannot amount to a right relationship with God. But God gives man this righteousness through a forensic means of justification. And the idea of forensic here speaks to a declarative way. God says man is righteous. He declares man righteous and man becomes righteous based upon what Jesus did on the cross. With that said, both ways of looking at the righteousness of God are true in the context of Romans 1:17, also chapter 2 and chapter 3. So I hope that this helps you to kind of understand the righteousness of God motive, and I hope that it kind of prompts you to continue to read the book of Romans. God bless you.